John Fetterman was confronted by a ceasefire protester during a campaign appearance yesterday, a protester who wants a ceasefire. The joke is on that demonstrator because, according to the senator himself, he can't even understand what they're saying.
That's why I'm here. She's why all of you are here.
But moments later, he's interrupted by a protester.
4,000 plus dead children in Palestine, 9,000 plus dead civilians. Get off the stage. Get off the stage. I don't care. That's not what you represent your constituency. You're not voting for it. Get off the stage.
Then Fetterman says this.
The joke is on you. I had a stroke. I can't fully understand what you're saying.
The man is eventually escorted out by police as he tells the senator to go home.
Senator Cory Booker was also confronted by protesters demanding an end to the U.S. support of the IDF. He handled it a little bit differently. Let's take a look.
There are so many places in our country right now where people want to make sure that we have. This is what makes America great. The power to protest, the power to have free speech, the power of America.
Ooh, okay, so just to take the Fetterman one first, remember just recently he got into a little bit of hot water because someone on his behalf, who apparently was not on his staff, physically assaulted and pushed out of a restaurant where Fetterman was having an event. Someone who was asking him very calm, non-confrontational questions about America's unqualified support for Israel as it sieges Gaza. So now, maybe not even a week later, he's being confronted by another protester, and he says, "Joke's on you. I can't even understand you because of my stroke." What do you make of that as a response to someone who was articulating their political grievances to a political leader?
I don't know. Maybe I'm supposed to just applaud a politician for finally being honest and saying, I'm mentally impaired and not qualified to respond to you.
Well, that's not the same thing. Not being able to hear doesn't mean they're not cognitively able to lead.
Okay, if you say so.
But it does, to me, it does seem like
I've had questions about Fetterman for a long time.
Sure, I do think that for me the issue is weaponizing a legitimate disability to ignore grievances from your constituents. Because clearly, given the event the earlier week, it's not about him not being able to hear, it's about him not wanting to respond to those particular kinds of questions.
I think we have a right to demand of our political representatives that they are competent enough to hear and understand our concerns, that they can mentally process those concerns. I don't have that belief for Fetterman and also many of our elderly people.
Robby, competence and senility and being able to hear are very different things.
Okay, but having the ability to speak is important. I mean, he has no right to this job. He's there's 100 people in America who get this job, and he's, we've seen him asking questions sometimes of people. Look, I don't mean to be mean. I hope he gets whatever recovery and help he needs. He's had depression because of this. It's a hard thing to go through, but he's not. Are you disagreeing with me? He's not capable of doing the job on a very basic level.
My critique is that his politics are terrible. And that he is
I don't like
weaponizing
either, but I don't like any of their politics.
And that he's weaponizing his illness and his stroke to avoid confronting really serious accusations about how America is complicit and what have been described repeatedly by Amnesty International and other groups as war crimes. So, to me, and remember, I would not run Fetterman for many reasons now, including his politics on this issue. But he did have the stroke 2 weeks before the election. It wasn't as though they could just swap him out. They were kind of locked in with Fetterman, and that's why he ended up being in this position. I think the question Fetterman's going to have to consider is whether or not anybody is going to have his back upon re-election, given that he's burned every bridge with the left that I can imagine.
Right. It's just I'm just saying it's very, for me at least, voters can make up their mind. It's an election. It's very disqualifying to me that you can't, that you're even acknowledging that you can't properly understand and respond to questions like this. Obviously, you're taking issue with the policy as well. And I take issue with the policy. He supports, he talks about the importance of funding Israel indefinitely, which is not a policy I support either. Cory Booker then also heckled there. Look, it is going to be a problem for Democrats to be heckled continuously at events by pro-Palestinian protesters. That's going to make them very uncomfortable. That's going to make them mad, maybe at the protesters, but maybe mad at Joe Biden for putting them in this position. Cory, what is Cory Booker doing there? What is he up to? What is that?
So I saw just a few days ago, Alex Thompson over at Axios tweeted that some Democrats seem to be quietly making moves to potentially succeed Biden. You have Cory Booker going to South Carolina this month. He wrote that actually, I think a different author wrote this article that he's tweeting about, Sophia K. Mm-hmm. But that they're going on resume building trips, foreign policy trips, to show that they can be a commander-in-chief. It does seem to be like there's some chum in the water. The question is whether or not someone like Cory Booker has a real shot. Now, I will say, in Cory Booker's defense, back in 2020, the Democratic Party steamrolled all of the young talent in the party. I spent a lot of time, obviously, talking about how Bernie Sanders was treated, but we cannot ignore the fact that both Castro and Booker were not the worst off in terms of polling and candidates fresh out the gate. And they had a decent showing at an early debate, but do you remember where they went astray, at least according to the Democratic Party? They had the audacity. Castro had the audacity to, on stage, say, Biden, do you not understand me? You just said that. Do you not remember what you just said? And bring his cognition into question. And then they went into the spin room, and both he and Booker doubled down on that and said, yes, I have concerns about his ability to lead. For that crime of saying the obvious, they were never on the debate stage again.
Yeah.
And so there's a part of me that is rooting for them. I mean, in terms of just sheer appeal. Cory Booker and Castro, and compared to people like Kamala Harris, infinitely more appeal. But the problem is that people like Cory Booker have been, AIPAC toadies for a long time. Remember, he's like pals with Jared Kushner. Trump threw a fundraiser for Cory Booker back in like 2013, 2014, and they're going to have to answer for all of those entanglements. It's a very different world than in the post-Obama era when people were willing to forgive everything about you just because you were melanated.
Well, right. I mean, those things that will cause them absolutely will kill them in maybe the Democratic primary process could theoretically be strengths in a general election, that you have some friends or some respect from the right. Cory Booker is or at least at one point was, working with Republicans or conservatives on education issues. He seemed to be someone who was trying to find, that bipartisan overlap sometimes being very bad, but on this issue, I was thankful to have his interest in supporting it. Theoretically, that could be an asset if he were to be a general nominee against Trump or whoever else. But yes, in the current climate in the Democratic Party, he's going to have leftists screaming at him at all his events. So that's not fun.
And hopefully, given how much crowing there has been about how there's this strong anti-war movement at the right, hopefully there's some conservatives who are really genuinely principled in their anti-war bona fides that are going to join some of these leftists that have been doing the really hard work of carrying the anti-war movement for all of these years. So look forward to seeing how that all develops. Stick around for more Rising right after this.